Ava, let's get started.
Protocol accepted.
Alright, let the show begin.
Roger that. Access granted.
I was chilling out, right? And I was thinking to myself, okay, the Otsutsuki are really interesting, but we don't really know too much about them. I want to know, and I want to explore more about this species, more about these entities, okay? I have this theory that everything is linked to technology, even the spiritualism. When you take a look at Chakra, I think it's some kind of nanotechnology, and this plays a critical role when it comes to analyzing the world. When Ishiki Otsutsuki gets absolutely destroyed, his soul migrates back to the non-vessel white karma seal that Code possesses. And he has a conversation with Code. And he tells Code to upgrade yourself. Those words are very important. Upgrade yourself. Almost as if he's some kind of machine. His body is some kind of machine and he needs to improve. Upgrade. And then you take a look at the mechanics of the juvenile Ten Tails, or the Ten Tails in general, and what it's supposed to do. Ishiki tells Code that the Ten Tails is going to absorb the knowledge and power of the world, and that there is a record of every living thing that existed on that planet, including himself, Ishiki Otsutsuki. Well, how does that work? How does that information get recorded and stored to the point where it can be downloaded into the Jubi, or the Ten Tails? So I got to thinking, it got weird, man. Hagoromo, he's like this chakra entity, right? He comes back in Shippuden. He even summons the previous Kage. And I started to think about like the cloud, IRL, right? Where you can store data in the cloud. I'm thinking to myself, okay, chakra is not some kind of spiritual energy. It's more like nanotechnology. It's just data that manifests itself in this particular way. When they die, their souls don't go up to heaven. Their souls go to the cloud. And then even going further beyond that, what is a world in the Naruto Boruto universe? What is that, right? I think planets are like computers, and the Ten Tails is like a USB or some kind of hard drive. And even going further beyond that, you look at the karma. Now, an Otsutsuki can place the karma seal in multiple vessels, but there's a failsafe preventing them from copying themselves. That's why when an Otsutsuki dies and is reincarnated, all the other karmas on all the other vessels dissipate. Well, the fact that there's a failsafe to prevent that suggests, not even suggests, it tells you that it's possible to copy an entire entity. So that's what you can do with technology. You can make copies of copies of copies. And this particular technology is designed to prevent that. Take a look at Orochimaru, a character who I have theorized is mimicking karma through the curse mark. He has all of these curse marks on all of these different vessels, and we know that the curse mark is storing his essence. He effectively copies himself over and over again. When people saw things, ancient human beings, they made up religions around said things. Things that we can explain now with science were some kind of spiritual this or that. You go back in the past with your iPhone, you go back in the past with your advanced technology from their perspective, and you will be viewed as a god or a witch. You might be praised or you might be folded, but from their limited perspective, they'll view it as something. They'll try to make sense of it. And I think that's what we're doing here. Just look at ninjutsu for a moment. For the longest time, and by the longest time, I mean the entire franchise, we thought ninjutsu was it. It's just a derivative of something greater, something bigger, something better. That's shinjutsu, the divine arts. You think Hashirama knew that? You think Tobirama knew that ninjutsu stemmed from shinjutsu, the divine arts? No. They simply went with what they knew. They tried to make sense out of what was without having all the data or all the information. And because of that, what they put out there in the world became truth. Not objective truth, but collectively a kind of subjective truth. So you think chakra is some kind of spiritual energy. You think these entities, these creatures, human beings, they're fundamentally different than humans IRL. I know it's a fantasy series, but it's based on human beings. They call themselves human beings. They call that planet Earth. Their moon is hollow. And if you look at them, their organs are intimately entwined with the chakra network. So then you go back to Kaguya, right? Where she puts the entire world in the infinite Tsukuyomi, completely wipes out all of humanity, but decides to bring them back. How convenient is it that when they come back, all of a sudden, their organs and their internal workings are intimately entwined with the chakra network? Curious. It's almost like she brought them back in her image, created them from scratch to be fundamentally something different. Now, if that's the case, why doesn't anyone know about this? Well, fast forward all the way to the Boruto era again. Momoshiki tells Boruto, "Foolish child, have you ever pondered? Have you ever wondered if the gods have altered the memories of humanity?" And you start to think, well, why'd you say that, buddy? Where did that come from? Kishimoto said a thing, put a pin in it. I'm coming back to that later. So humans to me aren't humans in the conventional sense. They're fundamentally something different. They are literally built to work in tandem with chakra. And if chakra is technology, then they are technology. They've always been cyborgs. And even with Minato in the 9-Tail situation, where he takes segments of his own chakra, he copied himself and left a copy of himself inside of Naruto. And the same with his wife, Kushina Uzumaki, as we do with computer programs. And even Naruto himself, his main #1 jutsu from the word go is him cloning himself, making copies of his program. A programming language of the gods, so spoken by Momoshiki Otsutsuki. That is what omnipotence is. The programming language of the gods. What is this, a simulation? Simulation theory? Is the Naruto Boruto universe a simulation? Go back to the Boruto anime. Kind of filler episodes, but there's an inner Kara member and Boruto is stuck in a simulation. It's real interesting. Going into detail about how I believe the Otsutsuki don't just go from planet to planet where life already exists and conquers them and takes what's theirs, but I also believe that they seed worlds with life. We know that they have abilities to create celestial bodies like a moon. Why not a planet? Stumble down the rabbit hole with me for a moment. The Otsutsuki, by some means, creates Earth with the purpose of seeding life on said planet. So human beings are a byproduct of the Otsutsuki. We're created in their image, but we're not exactly like them. This makes sense to me because if the Otsutsuki's goals are to gain power and knowledge by consuming worlds, then it makes sense that you would want to guarantee or at least set up a world or worlds that are going to have life, that are going to have knowledge, that are going to have power to a certain threshold. Otherwise, you're going to get diminishing returns. Listen, there's a world that they didn't build. There are people inhabiting said world that they did not create. What's to say that they're going to reach a significant level that's going to make them worth consuming to begin with? And also, how much life can exist in their world, in their galaxy, in their universe? After a certain point, much like on Earth, you start to consume resources, you need to start giving back, right? Because you're going to start to run out. The Otsutsuki can either create Earth, or Earth was its own planet inhabited by a completely different species at one point, and then they wiped them out and then reseeded Earth with human beings. So Earth was never originally humans' home, it was the home of some other species. And this gets me back to Kaguya creating humanity in her image post Infinite Tsukuyomi. Maybe 1,000 years ago. Those were actual human beings as we would understand them on the biological level, with no chakra network or anything like that, and they were destroyed and conquered. Kaguya does what they are prone to do, not just consume worlds, but also create them for later consumption. So then she reseeds Earth, repopulates it with a brand new species, calls them humans, but on the biological level, fundamentally different than what was there prior. Upgraded humans, altered humans to produce a higher yield when she harvests that world later on in the future. I think it's possible, especially with omnipotence. Chakra transference, where Hagoromo gives Naruto and Sasuke his chakra. That makes a lot of sense. If you look at it from a technological standpoint, you're transferring data from one program to another. Even if you think about what it's called, the chakra network, there's so many hints and clues sprinkled throughout the Naruto and Boruto series that alludes to this being some kind of potential simulation. We just didn't know it. It was never about ninja. It was never about shinobi. It was always about something more from the very beginning You didn't know that episode 1 of Naruto. You didn't think about the Otsutsuki. You didn't think about aliens. You weren't thinking about karma seals, multiple realities, different dimensions, planetary this or that. You weren't thinking about an entire civilization existing in the moon. You were not thinking about any of these things because you didn't know. You didn't have the frame of mind. You weren't viewing it from a certain lens. Now you know. Very fascinating, very interesting.